I'd like to call to order the May 5th, 2009 meeting of the Louisville Planning and Zoning Commission and announce that we do have a quorum present. Item 2 on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the April 7th, 2009 meeting. Do I have any comments or corrections from any of the commissioners, board members? If not, do I have a motion on the approval of the minutes?
Make a motion to... Oh, go ahead, Jim. Go ahead.
A motion from James. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Jim. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Minutes are approved from the April 7, 2009 meeting. Item 3 on the agenda is consent agenda plats. I'm trying to, do we act on these all at once? We can do these all at once? Okay. So item 3A is final plat of Farmers Branch Camelot Landfill Edition, Lot 1, Block A, the 350.77 acre tract zone specific use. Landfill located at the southern terminus of Huffines Boulevard, approximately 1,500 feet south of State Highway 121 Business. Item 3B is final plat of the Yugochukwu Edition, Lot 1, Block A, is 0.238 acres tract zone Old Town Mixed Use 2, located south of Main Street and east of Cowan Avenue at 383 Perry Street. Item 3C is amended final plat of Crest Manor Edition, lots 1 through 3, Block A, a 28.98 acre tract zone multifamily 2 and general business, located on the south side of FM 3040 east of Ace Lane. David. David, we can't hear you.
Oh, sir.
I think you're on when you're up, maybe.
Hello.
There you go.
Yeah. Farmers Branch landfill. One note that you might want to make is that we're recommending approval of that plat subject to the zoning being approved. The other two plats, the Ugochukwu Edition and Crest Manor, we're recommending approval of those without any conditions. All three plats meet the minimum requirements in our general development ordinance. The Crest Manor plat is actually a replat, and they're actually relocating a electric utility easement, so that one's pretty simple. I'll be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions from any of the commissioners? I guess my only question is if we're recommending, you're recommending 3A contingent upon the approval of what I guess would be 5A, which we're voting on afterwards, correct? The zoning change?
Yeah, we have no problem with the plat, but the plat is based upon the setbacks and such, and the plat are based upon the zoning.
Okay.
So what we would recommend is that you approve it subject to zoning, and then
okay.
approve the other two, and that can all still be done in one motion.
Okay. Okay, so anything else from the commissioners? If not, do I have a motion on items 3A, 3B, and 3C for approval or denial?
Make a motion to accept items 3A, B, and C as presented.
Motion from Jim. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Joy. All those in favor of items 3A, of recommending approval of items 3A, 3B, and 3C, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Item 4 is regular hearing plats. Item 4A is final plat of Elta Edition, a .18 acre tract zone light industrial located on the west side of Redbud Street between Purnell Street and Mackenzie Street. There is one variance being requested to waive the street escrow for Redbud Street.
This is consideration of the final plat of the Elta Edition and a variance associated with the plat. As indicated in the backup, there are actually 4 variances with regard to the subject property. However, only the one variance is actually plat-related. The plat-related variance is with regard to street improvements and or providing escrow for future street improvements on Redbud Street. The subject property is being platted for the purpose of constructing a small office warehouse building for a contractor. The street, Redbud Street, is currently unimproved. It's roughly 12 to 15 feet wide asphalt. Our general development ordinance requires that when someone develops adjacent to an unimproved street, that they either construct one half of the street across their frontage, and in situations like this where it's a relatively small lot and it wouldn't make a lot of sense to actually build 100 feet of a half street, the GDO gives them the option of putting up money in lieu of the actual construction. In this case, as I mentioned, there's roughly 100 feet of frontage on Redbud Street, which translates into about $27,000 and some change with regard to street escrow that would be required for a half a street at this location. Staff typically recommends denial of these types of variances. We've done that pretty consistently since this requirement has been in the general development ordinance. We think it's important to note in this case that unlike a lot of other streets that we've had this variance requested on, Redbud Street has a relatively high chance of being improved in the near future by the Denton County Transportation Authority because of some changes to railroad crossings that they intend to make when the commuter rail goes in. So there is no existing funding for the upgrade of Redbud Street. But if the DCTA moves ahead with their plans, Redbud Street could become a through street with a connection to 121, and in that event, they would be widening Redbud Street possibly up to a 37-foot wide concrete street with curb and gutter. So especially in this case, staff is recommending denial of the variance. I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have. I don't believe the applicant or his representative is here this evening.
David, did you review the other 3 variances? Did I completely zone past you? Or?
Yeah, the other 3 variances are related to the site plan and will be considered by the City Council.
Okay. These are not ones we have to consider.
Right, yeah. They won't be, although they're all included in the applicant's letter, the only variance that's actually attached to the plat is the street escrow.
Okay.
The other variances are all site-related.
Do any of the commissioners have any questions on this particular plat or the escrow variance that's being requested?
Yes, I do, on Redbird. How far you say y'all coming up on Redbird Lane? Are y'all going to come up and butt up to Mackenzie Street?
I'm sorry, can you repeat?
On Redbird, are y'all coming all the way up to the curve where it butts up to Mackenzie Street? Right
Yes,
here?
yeah, I'm sorry, yes. Redbud Street would be improved all the way from Purnell all the way down to State Highway 121, and there'd actually be a connection there. They would have to change the grade of the street so that a connection could be made. I don't know if you, with that street that's quite a bit higher than Highway 121, so yeah, they'll probably have to rebuild the intersection of McKenzie and Redbud as well in order to make that grade work.
good. That'll be good.
So, Commissioners, do we have any discussion at all on thoughts about the approval or denial of the variance? Because it is being recommended by the staff that we deny that variance for the Red Bud, putting money up for the Red Bud improvement. If not, thanks, David. Okay. Do we have then a motion on item 4A with regard to the plat and the variance? Anyone? Or do we need to discuss it more? We're being asked to consider this plat with the variance.
Can I make the motion to deny? That's what we're looking for.
David, this would be a motion to approve the plat with denial of the variance, correct?
Yeah, that would be correct.
Okay, so James, if your motion is to deny the variance, then approve the plat and deny the variance, is that?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion from James to approve item 4A with denial of the variance for the escrow on Red Bud. Do I have a second on that?
I'll second.
I have a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries with the denial of the variance. I'm sorry, that was Bill that did the second. I usually mention that. Item 4B is final plat of Midway Pump Station Addition, Lot 1, Block A, a 4.91 acre tract zone public use, located on the south side of Midway Road, approximately 600 feet west of FM 544. There is one variance. Oh, yeah, there is one. I thought I was reading the same one. There is one variance to waive the street escrow for Midway Road.
The subject property, a little bit over 4 acres, is being platted in order for the city to build a pump station, a water pump station. The Midway Road is a substandard road, roughly 20 to 24 feet wide, asphalt street, does not have curb and gutter. Just as in the last variance, our general development ordinance would require anyone developing along Midway Road to put up money in or put money in escrow or build one half of the road across the frontage. Again, this particular tract has a relatively short amount of street frontage. And if money was going to be put in escrow at this time, the amount would be roughly $64,000. In this particular case, staff is recommending approval of the plat and the variance. The difference between this plat and the last plat is that, number one, there is existing funding in place in the Denton County TRIP 08 bond program to rebuild Midway Road all the way from FM 544 to Huffines Boulevard. In addition to that, prior to that funding becoming available, there's also some additional funding that the city is holding that was collected with other plats on Midway Road that were done prior to that other funding. So between the funding sources, there is sufficient funding already in place to build Midway Road. Secondly, and probably a little bit less importantly, is generally a pump station, once the construction has been completed, generates very little traffic. And so from a reasonable nexus standpoint, there's not a lot of traffic being generated here, thus, not a lot of need for traffic improvements once the construction has been completed, as opposed to a business that might be attracting trucks or customers. So staff is recommending approval of both the variance and the plat. I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Thanks, David. Do we have any discussion on the commissioners? Anyone? I just have one question in general, since we had two of these come up. related to the escrow on these streets. I know that the escrow is intended to, to be put away to help fund improvement on these streets as different plats are completed, as different sites are completed, like along the street. But in general, does this money, feed into a pool through which funds are pulled for many streets that require improvements over time, some of which may be improved even though only half of the sites on them paid some sort of escrow? I'm just wondering how much, when we do this type of thing sort of on and off, we affect monies that are spread across all of our street improvements across the city, not just for Red Bud or for Midway.
When we collect a escrow for an unimproved street like this during a platting process, that money goes specifically into an account that is earmarked for that street.
Okay. That was my only questions. Okay. Anything else, Commissioners? If not, do I have a motion for the plat and the variance for 4B?
So moved.
Second.
So, Alvin, Bill, I have a motion from you to approve the plat with the variance?
Yes.
Second from Jim?
Yes.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Item 5 on the agenda is the public hearing for zoning. Item 5A is consideration of a zone change request from agricultural open space to specific use landfill on a 350.77 acre tract located at the southern terminus of Huffines Boulevard, approximately 1,500 feet south of State Highway 121 Business. Further identified as P.O. Leary Survey, Abstract 0974, Tracks 2, 3, 4, 6P, Higgins Survey, Abstract 0525, Track 15 and H. Harper Survey, Abstract 0605, Track 1. The request is being made by the City of Farmers Branch, Camelot Landfill, the property owner, case number PZ200900303. Gene.
The request is for the City of Farmers Branch to allow them to put in a methane recovery facility at this landfill. And methane recovery is something that is becoming basically mandated by the federal government because landfills create a lot of methane. That methane's just going into the air, and so landfills are now finding themselves in a situation of putting pipes into the landfill to recover that methane, and they can use that to generate electricity, put that into the power grid. There's a large facility at the landfill south of this, the Texas Waste Management landfill. They have a big building, and in fact, not too long ago, I think came in for some changes to add on to the building to increase the size of it. The zoning is necessary simply because the zoning on this particular piece of property, it's been in the city since the mid-1980s, I believe, came in as agricultural open space, and Ag Open has a 100-foot setback. Because this is a public governmental agency, they're allowed any use, but they had to follow the zoning regulations for the use they're in. And because this was in existence prior to coming into the city, the landfill is allowed without question. So from two standpoints. The only thing at question is whether they can have the methane recovery buildings within the 100-foot setback that would be required in Ag Open. When we have met with them to go over their options and choices and looking at the future, they feel like sometime perhaps within as early as the next 5 years, they may be coming in for some changes, expansion, vertical expansion of the landfill. But the only thing they want to do now is just add the methane recovery buildings and put them as close to the edge of the property as is reasonable, but within that 100-foot setback. So they have been required to go through the platting process, and because of the specific use zoning, also the engineering site plan process, and now the zoning process, which is tied to the engineering site plan. The only thing on the engineering site plan that's different from what's out there today is the addition of the methane recovery buildings. Everything else is essentially as it sits today. And what this does for us in the long run is give us an opportunity to have something as a benchmark so that in 4, 5, or 6 years, or whenever in the future they come in to expand or do other things to the landfill, more substance than just adding the methane recovery facility, we'll at least have a benchmark to be able to start from. You all do have a letter we received, I believe today, or at least this week, from Larry and Teresa Williams. They're shown as being in Escondido, California, but it's my understanding they own 2 or 3 parcels on Bunker Hill near this site, and their letter is asking you to deny the zoning request and suggesting that by denying the zoning request, the landfill would go away. Well, that's not the case. If the land was vacant and had never been used as a landfill and they were coming in for a new zoning request, the room would be full of people who would be here with sentiments similar to what the Williams have. But unfortunately, or fortunately, whatever the case may be, because everybody's got trash, the landfill is there, and it'll be there for several decades to come. The only thing that you're being asked to do tonight is approve the zoning, recommend approval of the zoning and the engineering site plan attached to the zoning, so that once the council approves that, then they can build their methane recovery facility, and we can have a benchmark from which to start in 4, 5, or 6 years when they come in and want to do some additional things with the landfill. The applicant is here if you have questions, but and they can, they do a 2-hour show for you if you really want. But in general, that's the gist of it. They want to add the methane recovery stuff, and you have pictures in your packet of what the buildings would look like. And there are some variances associated with this because of the nature of the landfill. You typically wouldn't, as an example, require them to brick these methane recovery buildings because you have to be lost or trespassing to be able to see them. So it's not unreasonable to have that type of building for the methane recovery facility in this particular location. So we have no problems with the variances that they're requesting and do recommend approval of the zone change as submitted. Any questions?
Gene, by your approval then, I'm assuming that all safety factors have been looked at, that if the buildings are located within the 100-foot variance, we don't stand to expose anybody to any kind of safety hazards.
No, they still have a potload of other regulations they have to follow with regard to safety issues. They could move the buildings in a few feet and be outside that 100-foot setback. They're not right on the property line where they're proposing them. They're closer to the property line. They're within that 100-foot. But it is not a safety concern whatsoever.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
Anything else for Gene?
No.
At this time, I will open the public hearing on item 5A. Anyone wishing to speak for or against item 5A can step forward, sign in, tell us your name, where you live.
Good evening. My name's Andy Gillies. I'm the planning director for the City of Farmers Branch. It's kind of odd being the applicant for a change, but be happy to answer any questions on this particular case. I think Gene's done a good job of explaining the various aspects of it. I will point out, if I could, the gas to energy plant area will be probably right at this area. It's about 4,000 feet from any residence and about 5,000 feet to Huffines Street. So it's a pretty good distance, as Gene put it. You'd have to be trespassing or lost to really come across anything on this far west portion of the site. We've had the gas lines in place since 2005 and are flaring off the methane gas right now, and would like to move forward with converting that methane gas to electricity. It would create about 3.2 megawatts per year, which would basically provide energy for about 3,000 homes.
Very good. Do we have any questions, commissioners?
Will this require the utility company to rebuild any electric lines or anything?
Excuse me?
Will this require the utility company to rebuild any electric lines or new lines?
We'll have to expand some electrical lines into the site, and one of the variances that we're asking for is for the ability to do overhead lines as opposed to underground lines. I think it's pretty logical that you wouldn't want to do underground service lines where you don't have to, especially in a landfill area where you have chances of digging and hitting something you wouldn't want to do. Yes, ma'am.
Joy?
Would all landfills eventually probably have this attached to them, since the methane gas is reusable?
That's a good question. I'm not a landfill expert, so...
Nor am I.
We have some other folks in the audience that are, but I think that's the growing trend, is that we're going to see more and more of this recycling of energy and taking the methane and the carbon dioxide and creating it, burning it off to create energy and put it into the power grid. Anything else? Thank you very much.
I'm sorry, I was waiting for the other city.
Go ahead, Jim.
One other question. Are there any plans or any tentative plans drawn up for the future requests? Are we going to be seeing more variances developing around this situation in the future?
At this time, no. This application for rezoning was to just come into compliance, as Gene explained, and to allow us to do the gas-to-energy facility project. We are under contract with Weaver Booz, looking at what options we might have in the future. At this time, we don't really have a very good handle on what to ask for, and we anticipate between 1 and 5 years we'll be back here, but at this time, we haven't a clue.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak for or against item 5A on the agenda? If not, could I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close the public hearing.
Motion from Joy. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Public hearing is closed on item 5A. Sorry, that was Alvin that did the second. Do we have any more discussion, Commissioners, on item 5A before we entertain a motion, or do I have a motion?
I'll make a comment.
Go ahead.
I'm
Bill?
100% in favor of it. We got to start somewhere.
Thank you. Agreed, I think. So do I have a motion? Would you like to make it?
Motion to recommend approval of the zoning change.
I have a motion from James. Do I have a second? Second from Bill. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Item 5A is approved. Item 5B is consideration of a zone change request from agricultural open space to public use on a 4.91 acre tract located on the south side of Midway Road, approximately 600 feet west of FM 544, further identified as BBB and CRR Survey, Abstract 180, Tract 8, SM Hayden Survey, Abstract 537, Tract 54, H. Young Survey, Abstract 1448, Tract 3, J.E. McWhorter Survey, Abstract 1690, Tract 3. The request is being made by the City of Louisville, the property owner. This is case number PZ 20090506.
You heard a bit about this location a few minutes ago with some discussion from Dave on the variance request. Again, the City of Louisville does not have to request the zoning because the City of Louisville, as any governmental entity, can go in any zoning category. But it's been our practice, particularly the last several years, that anytime there's any public uses that we rezone the property public use. And we would recommend approval of the rezoning of this property, which is now City of Louisville property, to public use. Any questions?
Any questions? Okay, we'll open the public hearing on item 5B. Anyone wishing to speak for or against item 5B, please step forward. As there is no one other than Sergeant Taylor in our, Sergeant, right? Captain Taylor. Captain Taylor, is that correct? In our audience, do I have a motion to close the public hearing on item 5B?
So move.
Second.
Motion by Bill, second by Joy to close the public hearing. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Public hearing is closed. Do I have a motion on 5B? For approval?
Motion to approve?
A motion from Joy to approve item 5B for the zoning change. Second from Jim. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Item 5B is approved. Oh, sorry. You're waiting on me, aren't you? Item 5C, I'm sitting here waiting for Gene to get his papers together. Sorry about that. Item 5C is consideration of a zone change request from Single-Family Residential District R5 and Single-Family Residential District R6 to public use on an 80.581 acre tract located at the southeast corner of FM 3040 and Duncan Lane, further identified as Henry Turner Survey, Abstract 1248, and Jesse Watkins Survey, Abstract 1328. The request is being made by the Louisville Independent School District, the property owner. This is case number PZ20090507. Gene, sorry.
This is our third in the series of public governmental entities requesting zoning. Again, the school district does not have to comply with, can build a school in any zoning category. This property, part of it's R5 and part of it's R6. But the school district bought it quite some time ago and now apparently has plans for some form of high school at that location. And they have agreed to zone the property public use as a house cleaning matter to make it public use on the map. And we, as with the city case, would certainly recommend approval of the zone change request to public use, correctly marking the property as being in use by the public. Any questions?
Gene, any questions on this one? This time I will open the public hearing on item 5C. Anyone wishing to speak for or against item 5C can step forward.
Jean,
Mary.
this one was going to be continued.
On further review,
Wait, I think Captain Taylor does want to speak on this one. So,
we do have a letter from Von Bucher, the engineer on the project, bringing to our attention that the zone change signage placed on the property was not placed on the property until this week. Therefore, he's requesting that the zoning change request for the Louisville Independent School District at the southeast corner of 3040 and Duncan Lane be tabled until the next meeting on May 19th. What we would, while it's not a statutory requirement, it is our recommendation that if they've requested this, and this would be a reasonable thing to do, that the public hearing is open or can be formally opened and then continued until the May 19th meeting, and at that time we'll proceed with the rest of the public hearing and the vote on it, because then the signs will have been posted for more than 2 weeks.
okay.
I got a quick question. How does that happen, that sometimes maybe a sign wouldn't go up? I mean, so this, it just slipped through the cracks, or?
Yeah, we sold them the sign, and the engineer was to go put it up, and apparently whoever in his office who was going to go put it up thought somebody else was going to put it up, and
But
I
the
didn't
city
get put up.
doesn't have somebody checking? to see?
We will spot check, but it doesn't happen very often that the sign doesn't get put up. Occasionally a sign will get put up, and if there's a big windstorm, it will get blown down. We'll drive around and check, particularly for zoning cases that are a little contentious. We'll make sure that the zoning signs are up. In this particular case, none of us drove by to look on this particular zoning request location, and Vaughn brought it to our attention. If he hadn't brought it to our attention, we'd have had no idea, but he understands the public process well enough to know that it's in everybody's interest to be able to put the signs out so that no one can say that they didn't have the signs out or tried to hide the zone change request.
Got it.
Yep.
So we'd like for it to be continued until May 19th.
Okay. So I had to open the public hearing. Should I close the public hearing, or can we just go ahead and vote to continue it to the next meeting?
Keep the public hearing open. If you've opened the public hearing, then, if you've not, then formally open the public hearing and then ask for a motion to continue the hearing until May 19th.
Okay. I did open the public hearing, I believe, before Mary piped in. So do I have a motion to continue the public hearing until the next meeting?
So move.
Second.
Motion by Bill, second by Alvin, to continue the public hearing on item 5C until the next P&Z meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Item 5C is continued to the next meeting. Item 6 is other business, and we do have one item that the Transportation Board will meet following tonight's Planning and Zoning meeting. Item 7 is adjournment. Do I have a motion?
Motion adjourned.
Motion from James, second.
Second.
Second from Joy. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.